Let's see who else we can find. We've got the team Ratters. Let's go and have a chat with the boss, Peter Ratcliffe, if I can dive in. Relaxing under the brolly. It's nice, this, isn't it?
Lovely, isn't it, Jamie? Very good. Of course, we've got 3 Lucys here, and this Lucy is helping me stay cool. So we've got a pile of Lucys, isn't it wonderful?
And Anglesey, the pace suddenly arrived. I mean, race 2, battling for the podium, and poor David was proper getting stuck in, wasn't he?
He was doing pretty well, wasn't he? And of course, the problem at the start of that race was somebody on the grid walk suggested that the senior member of the team was old, senile, utterly irrelevant, etc., etc. Well, of course, that member of the team is barely out of nappies, is he? You know, so we've got to see how he performs today. But no, Anglesey was good for us, other than the puncture, which put us back a little bit, which was disappointing. But we were happy. Pace was good. David was on fire. John and I not too bad. And no, I think we're feeling pretty good for today. We're okay, positive.
And as we said yesterday, I mean, the pace of the field, it's gone up another notch over last year, hasn't it? I mean, you said it at Croft, you were feeling a little bit lost with it, because, you know, you were sort of in the mix last year, and it sort of, everyone sort of moved forward, and you were like, well, hang on a minute, what about us? But then it clicked, and you got, again, a decent grid draw, and bizarrely, we all say stay in the tow, but given it's 48-degree track temperatures, 60 degrees in the car, you're going to be doing the complete opposite.
Well, I think that's probably right. Yes, it's going to be trying to manage the whole thing, isn't it? But whilst trying to stay as quick and as competitive as possible. I mean, the pace of some of the front runners is sensational. We're not on that pace, to be fair, but, you know, I think we're doing okay, and we're feeling pretty positive. We had a great result here last year. I think this was only our 2nd race last year, if I remember rightly. We were really delighted, and I think that we're all pretty positive about things, really looking forward to it. So, yeah, I think we're happy.
Fantastic. We'll enjoy it.
Thanks very much.
Don't get too warm. And Lucy, are you going to demand a bit of a pay rise for doing this?
No, this is what we do, isn't it? This is what we're all about. It's all the little details.
Yeah, and obviously he's having another day off, is he?
He is. Luke is having a day off. Unfortunately for us in some ways, he's at a wedding, something he couldn't get out of. But never mind, we've got the ace team here. These guys are first class, so they won't let us down.
Fantastic, we'll enjoy it. Thanks a lot. That's Peter Ratcliffe and Lucy from Team Ratters. Right, let's see who else we can find.
The grid, as ever with Fun Cup, is drawn completely at random, with one exception, that being the car that starts at the back of the grid. More on that later. So on pole position, we will have the Skull Club Racing car. That Skull Club Racing car will be started by Russell Joyce, former TCR UK racer and VW Cup racer, and alongside him the Vape Club with EDF Motorsports number 246 car. That car started by Simon Coles. Row number 2 for PLR Racing. That car will have Ben Pitch at the wheel for the opening stint, and Morpheus Racing Burrows FM Graphics Lab. Morpheus Racing, I think we'll be calling it for most of the race. That's 195, and that car started by Neil Burrows. Then High Peak Racing, number 107, that is Paul Calladine at the wheel for the opening stint, and 257 Supercharged Performance, that car started by John Perrott. Then row number 4 for Team Uvio Hoffman's Motorsport, the 225. That car will have Fabulous Randaccio opening the race for them, with 158 Team Summers alongside them. That car started by Christian Rose, the man who runs the championship more or less these days alongside his father Paul. Then Team Ratters Racing, number 155, will line up next. That's Peter Ratcliffe at the wheel, with Axiometrics, number 103, John Railton taking the start from 10th. 11th on the grid then for MJ Tech Racing. MJ Tech Racing, who are right up there now in the championship after a really good season to date. That car started by Will Abraham. It's got Jeffs to take over later on, with Signature RVs number 49 completing the top dozen, and that car will be piloted by Steve Ruston. Morpheus Motorsport, number 109, is next. That's Steve Walton. Alongside him, Fueled Up Racing, number 210, of Wendy Ellis Smith. Red River Sport, number 200. That car started by Bonamy Grimes. Has GCI Racing, the returning former champions, 111, starting alongside them with Ian Wood. The Caterham Boys, number 97, are next. That's Toby Clowes at the wheel. And Team FFS, number 220, that is a new team. Mark Heighton taking the start in the car that he shares with Lewis and Barry Thompson. Then it's Wave 9, number 207, will be started by Jason Minshaw. He should go quickly. Seed Data, number 214, are next. That's Mike Devlin. And then at the back of the grid, number 14, Team Greenheath. That's started by Gary Bate. And Team Olympian GRD are double winners from Anglesey last time out. Who will get the jump into Riches, who is going to be leading at the opening pit stop window, and crucially, who will take the maximum points at the end of 4 hours of racing for the Fun Cup Endurance Championship here at Snetterton. The clock starts to tick down, the cars are leaving the grid, and as they head towards Riches Corner up the inside, there goes PLR Racing, but it will be the Vape Club with EDF car that leads the way, and Neil Burrows, I think, there in the 195, slipping through into second position. Out of Riches they go, down towards the Wilson hairpin for the first time. One of the better overtaking opportunities on the circuit, but on the opening lap, really a case of survival, particularly with such a jumbled up grid. It looks like they're all through there just about in one piece, and now they head down towards the left-hand sweeper at Palmer's, but it does look to me as though it is Simon Coles who's got the lead. Yes, he has, and in second position Neil Burrows in that 195 Morpheus Motorsport car in desperate need of a good result after a scary incident, Richard, for Ted Bradbury at the wheel of that car last time out.
Yeah, I was chatting to Ted and Dr. Nessa, who has been looking after him. Jack is down at turn 1, he's one of the medical staff here, and dad of Sam Nessa.
Oh, yes.
Who's, he just told me there's a story coming up about Sam racing in GT next weekend, so keep your eyes and ears open for stories on that one. But yeah, Dr. Jack has sorted him all out, and he's here on duty today, as ever he is at big meetings at Snetterton. I think he's in A&E tomorrow, but he's coming tomorrow morning. Big thank you to medics and marshals, and early shout out to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely so. Without them, we could not be enjoying a fantastic weekend of racing, which already we've had with some of our support races. The Fun Cup getting off to a pretty tidy start here so far. Or Morpheus Racing to nick a couple of wins into the second half of the season. Well, it's early days, but both of those teams running well, particularly Uvio from 7th on the grid to 2nd then, as they head out of Agostini for the second time.
It does no harm, does it, to get a decent draw? You know, sure, as you mentioned, previous race winner, reigning champions at the back of the grid, and it is fun, and I just love the fact that, yeah, we might get, you know, some front runners down the back, and as well 2 new cars.
Yes, there are. Yes,
or 2 new driver lineups.
Yeah, completely new. Yeah.
So, not looking within the shout of the 10 grand from the times that I saw.
No, although interestingly, I was chatting to, who was I chatting to earlier on this morning? It was the 220, yeah, Lewis Thompson, who of course is a racer in the top level of Caterham racing within the UK. He said coming in, Barry and Nick, with whom he's racing, they've been doing Caterham Academy pretty successfully over the last year or so as well. Coming in, they really thought they were in with a chance of winning, and then he said, and then I saw the others doing pit stop practice and realised, no, we haven't got a chance. So they're just here for a bit of fun and to try and learn, really, and figure out exactly what pit stop.
I mean, everything is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the car prep, pit strategy, team support, everything. I was chatting to a guy last weekend. Sorry, if you want to get back to the race, go on to it. Who is looking at moving from Legends racing, and he had an accident, and I said to him, actually, we were trying to pair him up for the 10 grand bounty with another guy who used to race Legends, so we're going to be quick. But he looked at it and he said, I don't think I could efficiently do the driver change and being hauled out. It's not going to do his back in the days. Love to race it, because it would be better on his back than another accident in a Legends car. If you go up over a sausage curve and barrel roll, he doesn't want that again. Yeah, you need to be fit, don't you, to do pit stops at the top level.
You certainly do, yeah, because they're getting driver changes done in about 15, 16 seconds, something ridiculous like that. So that is where a lot of time can be won and lost, that is for sure. Right then, round we go through Palmer's on the 3rd lap. It's still Vape Club leading the way, but Fabulous Randaccio was about 6/10 quicker than them on that previous lap, so he's now within a second of the race lead. In fact, off in the distance, they're absolutely together, so I think we're about to have a lead change this time, heading down the Bentley straight, I would imagine. Fabulous will look to use the very powerful slipstream that these cars produce to find a way past Simon Coles, who's driven well though to lead the opening handful of laps, in fact, and then Axiometrics also part of this gaggle as well. But it looks to me as though Will Abraham is keen to try and get back on with this. He's back up the inside of Neil Burrows and reclaims 4th place heading towards Agostini.
Yep, neat move down the inside, classic passing position here. And one of the things I love about, I think probably in terms of overtaking opportunities, Snet's my favourite track, along with probably Donington GP and Silverstone Nat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had some cracking races here over the years. One of the drivers actually was saying that they prefer the 200 circuit because it is a bit more slipstreamy. This infield section, they said, can sometimes spread the field out. The trouble with that is it's a much shorter lap. The good thing about the 300 circuit is it keeps drivers, keeps teams on the lead lap for longer. So when there is then a safety car, you've got more people in contention. So I'm all for it.
Important for your health to do that. The drivers will, when they come in, they'll get a drink break. But I must admit, this is probably one of the days I wouldn't want to be out there and driving. Definitely wouldn't be fit enough to do this personally.
I think I'm with you there, to be honest. Even just standing in the commentary...
You agree? You would be. You're all right. You're a youngster.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Even standing in this very warm commentary box is going to be a test, I think, for the next 4 hours. But we will enjoy it, that's for sure, as the drivers will enjoy their racing. And again, that's something that Craig Butterworth was saying to me earlier on this morning. He said when you're in the car and you're racing, you don't really notice it because the adrenaline sort of pushes through and that carries you through it. It's when you get out of the car, actually, ironically, and you have a chance to cool down, when you realise just how warm you are. Right then, Greenheath here at the inside of GCI Racing, and they're both sort of bottled in behind Ratters Racing. That was a bit of a squeeze there, and the GCI Racing car has a bit of contact. Now that has folded the left rear bodywork look onto the left rear tyre of the GCI car. I noticed Greenheath were already missing a bit of front splitter as well, so it may not be the first time that those two have tangled, but that bodywork rubbing this early in a stint, Richard, that will be a concern.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a worry. They'll want a safety car now, won't they, to maybe sort that. Well, Simon Rudd, I think, was it 12th I saw on the last lap?
Yes, I think
so.
By
the way, making progress, so picking them off in early doors. And you can see why they, there's a good case for leaving. All that is definitely rubbing his racing, but he won't be racing very much longer with that. That could be an early stop, couldn't it? Just do a damage limitation exercise on that, keeping out of the way of the other cars. Not what you want early doors. You can see the idea. I mean, sometimes it's a good case to leave faster driver in for later.
Pit outside of the pit window, it doesn't count as one of the mandatory pit stops. Side by side across the line there, School Club Racing with the Wave 9 car going to their outside. As at the head of the field, Richard, Uvio not dropping Vape Club with EDF, are they? Simon Coles is sticking right with Fabulous Randaccio.
Yeah, that's true, and it's not about being in front, it's the distance, isn't it, really, that you need to put away. You might be managing it. Was there much talk in terms of tyres and heat and how durable they are?
Not a lot, although it will be a bit of a concern because this place is difficult on the tyres, the rear tyres particularly, because there are lots of traction zones out of low-speed corners, but these tyres should be more than capable of doing it. They've done 8-hour races before without changing tyres. The tyres are not such an issue. It is more the fuel mileage, because you use a lot of fuel on a lap round here. Obviously that has a big effect on strategy. One of the harder circuits to double stint at, I would say, as far as fuel loads are concerned, and also managing those engine temperatures as well. Very often we'd see drivers working with each other in a situation like this to try and pull away, but actually you don't really want to be tucked up behind the car for any longer than you have to be today.
Simon Rudd challenging for 9th place, appropriately enough, the Wave 9 car. It's the other teammate car, isn't it? That one, the 214.
Ooh. I think it was the 220. Now that is the FFS car. I'll leave you all to figure out what that might stand for. Nick Heighton at the wheel for the opening stint. Barry Thompson and Lewis Thompson to take over later on. So that seemed to avoid damage to that front splitter, which is always the worry on a Fun Cup car. Particularly on a circuit such as this one, where it is just so technical and really do rely on that front splitter, which generates quite a bit more downforce than you might imagine. Without it, you can be perhaps a couple of seconds off the pace around a circuit such as this one. Here we go then. Uvio now really starting to extend that margin, aren't they? They go across the line now, and what is their gap going to be back to the Vape Club with EDF car? There they go across the line, 5.5 seconds behind, so that gap has suddenly shot out, hasn't it, with MJ Tech slipping off the road and having to pit. 257 are in now. John Perrottin serving that drive-through penalty. He's going to rejoin the circuit just ahead of the School Club car, I think. Just slip down the order a little bit. But yes, the lead gap shooting out as we approach the end of the opening half hour. Unlike the last couple of races that we've had, by the way, the 3-hour races at Anglesey, because this is a 4-hour race, the stint lengths are slightly longer. So the first pit window will open at 12 minutes past 2 because it's a 40-minute stint as opposed to a 30-minute stint. So 40-minute stints, still the 5 pit stops over the course of the 4 hours, but the driver's got a little bit longer behind the wheel, which is perfect really, certainly around a longer circuit such as this one. For 220, that is Team FFS. I think they'll be reciting their team name in the garage right now at the news that they have got a penalty to be served. Nick Heighton, again, not sure what the stop-go penalty is for. Track limits, possibly, this early in the race. I'd be surprised if that were it, but it must either be that or an out-of-position start of some sort that is needing for them to be handed a stop-go penalty as well. So that's 2 teams with a penalty. We've had MJ Tech in to presumably get some grass cleared from the grill. Seed Data are still in the pit lane. This is often the case here at Snetterton. We come to race at Snetterton, it's a bit of a car killer anyway because it does demand a lot of the drivetrains with all of those traction zones. On a hot day like this, often it becomes a bit of a battle of attrition. And I wouldn't see Rose, it's now Gary Summers. Gary Summers
that is a lovely purple. Sorry to be in touch with my colours and stuff, but on the grid in the sunshine, that purple
did look
absolutely superb.
Did look good, very good, and had lots of eye-catching liveries out there actually.
Yeah.
And the cars, they take a bit of a beating sometimes over these long races, but they always end up looking pristine again at the start of the next one. There's a lot of time and effort put into the upkeep of the cars, much of it by JPR, of course, who provide their services to a lot of the teams, but not all of them. Some of these cars are privately owned and prepared, with perhaps assistance from JPR, but they do the work themselves. Right then, we have got a minute and a half before the pit window closes, plus 1 lap, because remember you can extend that by a lap if you want to, and still about a third of the grid yet to pit, including, predictably, the top 6 cars. MJ Tech have pitted now. Let us know if they're taking on fuel, but certainly not for Easter. And look how quick that pit stop was.
Very well drilled.
Wow.
So too was the Uvio one as well. But, you know, barely losing a lot of ground there because he came in second place, immediately behind the number 1 car, and that is how quick. If you blinked, you missed it.
That, well, sensationally quick pit stop.
It won't take long, did it?
I think that made sense. Yeah, what a pit stop that was for Olympian with GRD then. Slightly slower for the 246 car, which Jamie tells us did not take any fuel, so no fuel, dry pit stop for all 3 of them. So having said that this is a hard place to double stint on fuel, all of the front runners basically double stinting on fuel right from the start, so maybe it's not quite as bad as I thought. PLR Racing, I suspected the same because they're not far behind either, but that was a real turn up for the books. 2 laps ago, Simon Rudd in car number 1 was about 6 seconds behind the leader, and now as he hands over to Chris Devell, he is 3.5 seconds, or that car is 3.5 seconds ahead of the Uvio car. But can Chris Devell now maintain the pace that Simon Rudd had in the previous stint?
I've said how attractive this formula is to drivers coming in, but one of the things that people are cautious about is just how well drilled the teams are on the pit stops and how good the front runners are at coming through. Because if you, I haven't seen the Autosport Motorsport news journalists this weekend. I'm sure they're around. It's a sharer, isn't it, for these?
It is, yeah.
Stuff in. But you know, the story is, or part of the story is that the guys that won the double at Anglesey have come through and led a little bit of contact there. So all going up. Yeah, the story is that Simon Rudd got through from the back of the grid into the lead in that first stint, and that's one of the things. It doesn't put people off coming in, but they know how it makes them realise what a competitive top level in terms of experience championship this is.
Indeed so. Now, is that Gary Summers off the pace?
Hugo Hoffman, 12.3 seconds, so yeah, better lead than they had on the first part of the race, which I think topped out around about 9, so 12 is good. Vasilov second, Pimmer in 3rd place, and what's the gap? Back to the 49 car, Marcus Clutton, 28 to 40. Yeah, still a good gap back to them. Now,
Greenheath, sorry to change subject slightly. Greenheath, we've seen in serving a drive-through penalty for track limits, haven't we? Well, they've now been given a stop-go penalty for track limits. It could only have been 2 or 3 laps ago that they were in to serve the first penalty, so the fact that they've done it again is not really a good sign, is it? So Julian Floyd, our race director, is hot on track limits. He always is. Of course, this being a motorsport vision circuit, there are sensors placed around certain parts of the track where it's being monitored, and unfortunately, low 2-minute 20. EDF have mid 2-minute 20. PLR a high 2-minute 20. Riley Phillips 2-minute 18. So he's already over a second a lap quicker than the race leader is Riley Phillips. He's 22.5 seconds back. Can he get there before the end of the stint? That might be a tall order, but if he can just get that car back into contention, then they've absolutely got a shout of a 3rd win in a row.
It's great work for the teams when the status quo is maintained through the through the pit stop. Status quo, Rick Poffinger, is he going to have a go? RPJ, we need to get him in here, don't we?
There's a good idea. Hey, I mean,
ad,
any status quo link we can make is...
Are you a quo addict?
I've just bought my tickets to see them for, I think, a 6th time.
Oh, wow.
On what may or may not be their final tour, actually. Mr. Rossi says. So, yes, they're my favourite band.
It's a shame that Rick's not with the band, but it's still... Francis Rossi still takes the... They sponsored a car in the very early 70s before you were thought of.
Really?
And they sponsored a hot rod car.
Simon Brooks said to me this morning that Chris obsesses. He's got a spreadsheet that no one else is allowed to see, which is a shame. Because, I like a spreadsheet, but he won't even let me have a look at the spreadsheet. It is top secret, and that's where he works out lap times, average lap times, pit stop times, how long it takes to put this much fuel in, and whatever else is on there. And he will sit at home and think about this strategy and come up with what he thinks is the right way to do it. They've landed upon this idea now, where they basically have him in twice in the middle of the race, and then leave Simon and Riley to bring the car home. And it worked, because they won both races at Anglesey using exactly the same strategy. 25 hours Fun Cup race as a strategist, because all of the big teams in Europe want to have him on board. So he goes over there, or used to go over there anyway, every year for the Spa 25 hours to do strategy for some of the leading teams. And they will have 9 or 10 cars that he's in charge of the strategy for 25 hours. He's famous for staying awake for the entirety of a 24-hour race. The same is true there, I'm sure. And he asked if I'd like to go over one year and help out with it, and I said I'd absolutely love to, but that makes my head hurt just thinking about it, just dealing with one car's strategy. Unbelievable, isn't it? So yeah, I've done a couple of Fun Cup races with him over here in the UK, and I thought I knew a thing or two about this championship, but what he doesn't know about a Fun Cup strategy certainly is really not worth knowing. So yeah, very impressive, and there will be people up and down this pit lane who are just as obsessed with that as he is. Chris Davell absolutely being one of them, and that's how you become good at this game.
And the other point is, you could put someone else in the car and they wouldn't be as good as him.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, on leaps and bounds from where he was when he first started racing here. So yeah, he comes up with the strategy. He realises this is the most likely way that they will win races, and he now will be sat back watching Riley Phillips do his thing. And as I say, that actually wasn't quite as quick as the last time around, but I suspect maybe traffic had a little bit to do with that. So everyone having now made their second mandatory stop of the race, and that's another speeding penalty for 155. That's Ratter's Racing, isn't it? I think so. Yeah. Something in the water today, isn't there? That
seems to be.
Speed gun's getting some use.
Yeah. Is it actually gun, or is it? I don't know whether it's monitored from the course of the during the course of the race. Just speculating on in terms of speed. I've not clocked it. So is it somebody with a gun?
Yes.
Who's there, rather than it being a
yes,
it's
because Snetterton does tend to create a little bit of a less exciting race, just the way the track format has it. It drags everyone out. So yeah, a little bit of rain would really mix things up.
All right, thanks a lot, mate. That's Scott Jeffs. Now, what we're going to do, Johnny, if you want to follow me, we'll give Andy and Rich a little bit of a break. Guys, do chip in if something happens on track. We're going to go all the way down to the other end of the pit lane, because I know why they've done this, to have a chat with Ted Bradbury and some Chris Hart. What we'll do is we'll go throw back to Andy and Rich, and I'll go and find Mr. Bradbury.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Thanks for keeping us up to speed with that one. We look forward to hearing from Ted a little bit later on.
It's very lively. What's Ted Bradbury done now?
Ted? No, it's Ted. It's Father Ted. Do you not remember?
Oh, I see.
Ardlow Hanlon. Another old, probably too young to remember that as well.
No, I have watched a bit of Father Ted. Yeah, I like a bit of Ardlow Hanlon. Yeah.
Very funny.
Okay.
Hard-hitting documentary about the Catholic Church.
Yes, I think that might be a very different kind of. Anyway, yeah, okay. Ted Brown. How was Ted then? I confess, I was.
He wasn't there, so he's gone to find him.
Oh, okay, right. So
Ted's gone to see the spider baby. That was the funny one. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, and this I think is going to change, or is about to be a change for 11th place. Is it GCI? No, being caught by Team Ratter's Racing, actually. So Team Ratter's Racing, Peter Ratcliffe back in the car now, catching up to the 111, which is in Wood at the wheel, as we tick towards half race distance. Pit stop's due in about 10 minutes' time.
So interesting that Scott wanted to do it. It's lightening up again, by the way. It's not looking out of the side window. I'm not sure if there's any rain, but it was interesting because this is not a bad race, and you know, sure, things get strung, but you've got he's got a potential. He's closing in. The timing of that could coincide, that progress, assuming the misfire doesn't get worse.
Yes,
could coincide with the grandstand finish.
That's interesting, isn't it? That he's got a misfire of all the places to have one as well. Snetterton green flag running. That's not long at all, is it really? Now Uvio double fueled, didn't they, last time?
Yeah,
pretty sure. Vape Club, I think, did the same. PLR, I think, did the same. So Olympian are the ones that are off strategy. I can't remember what MJ Tech did, if I'm honest. I think we did see the pit stop, but I just can't remember what their fuel strategy was. We really should make notes of this because MJ Tech in particular never want to tell us. When we get to the end of the race and we go and ask them the question,
well,
they never tell us.
None of them want to impart anything because it's their strategy, isn't it?
Exactly.
We need Jamie to log basically how many churns still go in, how long the stops were, how long it took him to get the driver out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm joking, Jamie.
Sure he can manage that. It's only a short pit lane here, Snetterton. He can position himself in the middle of it somewhere and probably keep an eye on everything. 9.3 seconds now, the gap between Uvio and Olympian, so it came down by another 1.2 that time. And Simon Coles, in fairness, not being dropped massively, is he? Then we've got PLR in the high 220s and MJ Tech with a 222, so that's the damage that traffic can do for you sometimes. They had a big knot of back markers to get through there, and it was a slow lap for Will Abraham as a result.
Likewise, I mean, the whole team's great. We love working with the Alpha guys. The people in the club enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have some stresses and strains, but they get put to one side, and we, hopefully deliver. I think it's a good thing. I've watched some of it back, and it's a super job.
Good, yes, no, good fun. That's a team that's enjoying working together will always put out a good product, won't they? And that certainly seems to be the case. It's a nice place to be with the BRSCC right now too. Really starting to go places now, and under the careful management of Paul McCurlian, who thankfully hasn't graced us with his presence this weekend, but I'm sure he's watching at home, and hanging on our every word. I await the angry text message from our Lord and Master, Mr. McCurlian. We do miss him when he's here. So weirdly puts a lot more pressure on us as a broadcasting team when he's not here, because that means he's sat at home watching the coverage and we can't get away with any slip-ups. But Paul McCurlian has done a fantastic job, and his whole team as well.
Stop talking about me and talk about the race.
Likely, actually, yes.
Has he race one of these? Has he been out?
I don't believe he has.
Do we need him and Greg to go for the 10 grand?
Well, if they did, I think the 10 grand would be reasonably safe. So I think Paul Rose would be all for that. But they've done some MX5 racing together recently.
And Luke Souch as well. We might as well get the three of them now.
Jamie has read our mind. Don't forget, Paul McCurlian has raced in Fun Cup. So yes, he has.
Thank you.
Can't remember when, if I'm honest. But
so we can't go for the 10. So it'll be Luke Souch and Greg Graham for the 10 grand then.
Yeah, I don't think that'll worry Paul either too much. I was chatting to Luke actually about he's got a rather beaten up Master MX5 from an accident he had at Donington Park a few years ago, which I never mentioned, and whether or not he's going to go back out and race that again. Hopefully he will one day. Anyway, back to the racing in hand, and that is a very close move for GCI Racing round the outside of Ratters Racing. This is for position. Ratters Racing have gone past GCI earlier in the lap. GCI now getting it back again, and then Ratters Racing back up the inside again. That was 3 changes of position in 2 corners between these 2 drivers, and this is all over 11th place for the time being as they head up through Coram Corner again. The pit window is now closed, by the way. The leading 3 are all in. Well, one of them is out actually. That's Uvio back on their way again. We've got there just in time to miss what they did with refuelling, but anyway, Uvio back on their way.
Don't give us the time in a minute.
Exactly, yes. With his 3 stopwatches. We can see what happens with MJ Tech. That's 1 churn of fuel by the looks of it going in. And Scott Jeff's also about to go in. Will Abraham comes out one side, trudges away. I think he's a little bit worn out after all that, isn't he? Not at all. There is the GCI car still battling with Ratters Racing. It's a brilliant scrap. It goes to show you don't have to be in the lead group to be engaging in some good door handle battling. That's definitely the case between these 2 who have been together for much of this most recent stint. No fuel for Uvio. Vape Club 1 churn, we're hearing. Olympian come through. Now Olympian must have just pitted as well, haven't they? So what did they do, I wonder? Out comes MJ Tech. But yes, so no fuel for Uvia. That's interesting. So they double fueled last time, and that meant they could have a very quick pit stop this time. So that gap will now definitely have extended slightly.
They're going to get back to the 15, maybe to 20 seconds lead as they head into the penultimate stint at the end of this section. Far too early to talk about that, but gap-wise, that's what they're going to be looking for. At the moment, as you can see on the clock, it is 17 seconds. We've got Chris Devell back in
Yes.
number 1 now, so we can expect that gap to go up, particularly as Uvio didn't refuel, so the car's going to get lighter, but then the gap will close up on the next set of stops, which will be going into the penultimate set. So Uvio Hoffman's out front, 17 seconds clear. Olympian GRD in second position, the reigning champions, with another 4 seconds back to Fake Club EDF. MJ Tech Racing 45 seconds down. So probably need to jot those down so we've got a rough idea on progress.
I'd give that a lap because that doesn't sound right. I reckon MJ Tech should be closer than that. I wonder if it's because of where they're positioned in the pit lane, because of course this is the first time they're going to break the timing beam
That is true.
on track.
Cross it out, we can see.
You may be right. They may have had a slow pit stop. I don't know what they did with fuel. Oh, they took one churn, didn't they?
Yeah.
One churn MJ Tech. So I'd be surprised if they've dropped that much time. Let's see. Uvio go through. That's Farkini back at the wheel. GRD, Olympian GRD will come through in second place, what we're thinking about 17 seconds back or so. And you might be right, because they've not got here yet, have Olympian GRD. Now they go through, in fact it's more than that, 20.9. So they've lost about 12 seconds, so they must have taken fuel then. That's the only explanation really.
Yeah.
Vape Club are 23.5 seconds back, PLR Racing 28.1 seconds back.
Director of Supercharged Performance in and around Ipswich, so obviously a home track for him. But how enthusiastic, how great to get a newcomer. And again, it just goes to prove, if you're looking and worried about coming in, I know drivers with reputations, I've said before, worried about coming in and what you're going to come up against. And we've had a couple of conversations today that Jamie's facilitated in pit lane saying, yeah, you need to probably, with any formula, allow a little bit of time to bed yourself into it and get to see what happens. If you're an established driver, but if you're a new driver coming in, getting your ARDS licence, your racing licence for the first time, you've just heard it there from Josh, how much did he enjoy that?
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant story.
That's
well done,
so
Jamie.
Nice to hear. Yeah, good stuff there, Jamie. Right then, so the story now is that the weather has started to arrive and the lap times really reflecting that, because teams who had regularly been lapping in the 2-minute 20s are now lapping in the 24s, 25s, so they're dropping 4-5 seconds a lap, 3-4 seconds a lap anyway, as Ratters Racing fling the 155 car into Williams. This is still an ongoing battle between Ratters Racing and GCI Racing over 11th place, but Ratters Racing just with a small gap now ahead of their rivals. But yes, this weather coming in, this could change everything. The teams who have had the pace in the dry, are they going to be able to replicate that in the wet? If teams are driving round certain issues, might that be made worse or made easier by a slight change in conditions? Certainly not torrential rain, it's just a little bit of drizzle here and there, and there is blue sky coming, so I only expect this to be a short shower, but it could just be enough to catch a few of them out.
It's not wet though, because there's only a couple of wipers on. So.
Yes. Psychological rain, I believe they call it in...
Not heard that one.
Yeah, it's a two-wheeled expression, I think that. Bikers tend to use that. I quite like it. It's just enough to let you know that it's raining, but actually not enough to make the track any slipperier.
You wouldn't want to race the bike.
Oh no, not in any conditions. No. I've got the utmost respect for the... stood on the pit wall at the Donington last week watching the World Superbike Championship, and oh my word, that really takes your breath away as they flash past you down the pit straight there. Great characters though in bikers. We've had a few bikers come over and do Fun Cup racing in the past, and I'm fairly certain, I'm not dreaming this, but Sylvain Gintoli was one who came over to do a Fun Cup race a couple of years ago, amongst other races, actually some MX5 racing too, I think, with the BRSCC. And they found it quite a challenge as well. And of course the most famous one, not Fun Cup related, but we've seen the Doctor himself, haven't we, making a transition from 2 to 4-wheel motorsport with quite some success of late. So it goes to show, doesn't it, if you've got that competitive edge and that understanding of how to go quickly on a racetrack, it doesn't really matter how many wheels you've got underneath you. If you've got it, you've got it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. perfect.
It's black and white flag for car 207. Well, that's wave 9. Now, that's not track limits, that's driving standards. So there's something else that they're not happy with the 207 car. 249, by the way, MJ Tech, a coil pack issue now replaced. So they've replaced a coil pack on that car. And that's another bullet, really, that they've dodged, isn't it? Because that's 2 incidents that could have, arguably should have, lost them more time than they actually have ended up losing. And if we were to get...
And this could be the kind of move, the kind of pace saving or position saving that could get them onto the top step of the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is so important, isn't it, really, that Neil tries to maintain this track position. The pit window will be open. Pit window open board will be out. In fact, it's out now. So they're seeing that board now. There it goes, just as that group comes through. So I think they would have just about seen the board if they were focusing on that. I'd rather suspect they weren't, because they're side by side again into Rich's corner. And Vlad Vasiliev to the outside line. That's unfortunately another to add to the retirements list.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but this battle still goes on, and Vlad Vasiliev still putting Neil Plymouth under a huge amount of pressure. One feels that this might get resolved in the stops, because we're a couple of minutes into the window having opened, and from here, I guess if you've got a lot of pressure, do you then want to say, okay, forget it, I'm going to go in and take a break, or do you carry on faster driver? Great point.
Yes,
now on the Bentley straight.
Yep, 28 seconds. Well, this is always the fun time, isn't it? An hour to go. We've got one more pit stop left, and you finally start to get a picture of what the complexion of the race will look like. There is the Uvica. I agree. I don't remember it missing that other half of the splitter, the left-hand side of the splitter, last time we saw it. Let's see what Fabulous's pace is then. He's about to come across the line to complete his 71st lap of the race.
10 seconds between the pair. Yeah, so gap's coming down and changing.
So there goes the Uvio car then through Oggies, and yeah, came down by, as you said, only a second that time in those 2 races. So if we go safety car free, we should be looking at about 102 laps or so, which gives us about 30 laps left. So at the moment, Olympian taking a second a lap, it would be close, but it is definitely doable. And if anything, Riley Phillips is even quicker than Simon Rudd, really. So if Simon could take a second a lap out of Uvio, Riley could be able to take a second and a half. But I'll tell you what, Uvio aren't going down without a fight, are they?
They are not. If you're going sideways, you're not going forward. But yeah, 26 seconds is the gap at the moment. This Team FFS chasing the other newcomers. Ironically, the Caterham boys. So they are 13th and 14th, the 2 newcomer teams on this one, as we pick up on the Freight Club EDF 246 car, which is running in 3rd place. 15 seconds down on the P2 Olympian Skull Club back in pit lane.
He's still going. Technically lost a couple of places with that pit stop. So
driver out. You saw just how quickly the drivers are extricated from the cars. Rear panels back in, and the car will be on its way. It's not gone back in the race.
Yes, they are. So School Club underway, and late pit stops these, aren't they, really?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, very late, actually. I'm not going to speculate on whether it's too late, but we're, what, 3.5 minutes? It's just about, you could be about 4 and a bit minutes over in a way, couldn't you? Yeah, so if you just started a lap just before the window closed board goes out, yeah, you do 2 full laps, that's 4.5 minutes, isn't it? So, yeah, it's just about okay, I think. Just racing in. Interesting, on the same lap as GCI, with whom they've had this terrific battle for basically the last hour and a half or so, haven't they?
They have, yeah. It's been a good one to watch, and hopefully they've enjoyed it as well. Through, we'll try and see how much the gap has come down. Again, 1st to 2nd. It's Jamie doing the business down there in pit lane, looking for the next story to get for us. Signature RV. In 7th place, just off my top 6 notes from the previous session. So they're chasing down Team Greenheath for 6 at the moment. Greenheath now with Gary Bate taking over.
It's very much an open paddock in that sense, you know, the more experienced drivers only too happy to lend a hand to those who
tell you what the strategies are.
Yes, maybe not quite that far, no. But you know, they will certainly help with setup and you know, a bit of driver tuition out on track as well. So yeah, it's a great place to come and learn your craft. Actually, did a really good interview with Johnny Molan earlier on, and Gareth Williams, with whom he's driving, and sort of asked Johnny about, you know, the role of a driver coach.
It's basically not getting on the limiter quick enough,
or getting off it too soon, yes, or setting the limiter at the wrong speed, maybe, because pit lane speed limits can vary, can't they? I don't actually know if this track has a different speed limit to anywhere else, but I'd be surprised if that were the case. Yeah, just maybe. Do you know what it could be? And this happens sometimes if a pit lane has more than one pit lane speed limit line that is used. Do you know what I mean? So it could be that in pit entry there might be 2 lines on the surface, and it's confusing drivers, and it might be that actually they think they're using the second line, and in actual fact it's the first line. I've heard that excuse used a few times in the past. Whether that's the case here, again, I'm only speculating, but for there to be so many, we don't tend to get this many, do we? So it seems a bit odd. Anyway.
Sub 20 seconds now, the gap, the car at the head of this quartet, P2, Olympian GRD, trying to close down Uwe Hoffman's, and it's still doable. We were saying a second a lap. 7 minutes on the clock, so into the last quarter of the race. Uwe Hoffman's Olympian GRD, Vector DVF, BLR Racing, MJ Tech 5th, Morpheus up into 6th place. Weather's going to be nice. A few battle scars on there.
Yes, it's been a bruising race, this, hasn't it, actually? As indeed was one of the Anglesey races last time, although this has just been lots of little sort of single car incidents mainly. 19 seconds then, one more pit stop to come. The thing that could decide this is the fact that I don't think Uvio need any more fuel, whereas I'm pretty sure Olympian will need at least a splash at the final stop. And again, a bit like we said with Riley Phillips' previous stint, really this race hinges on how close they can get to Uvio in this stint, assuming that they might then have extra time to spend in the pit stops at the final round of pit stop action. But at the rate he's going, he's taking around a second a lap still out of Uvio, with still potentially the best part of half an hour that he could spend in the car, although I suspect they'll try and get Riley Phillips in early again, as they often seem to do. I don't know, what do you reckon? Uvio have led for so long in this race, and they presumably will continue to lead for a little while longer at least. It would be heartbreaking if they were to lose it, but do you think Olympian have got what it takes to snatch it from them?
Gap goes down to 18. I think the answer is yes, because of what they've won so far this year, but you called it. It's going to be about the stops, isn't it, and how much longer that takes. It's going to be close. It's going to be close by the end for sure, so you've got to keep watching.
Indeed so. Well, I'm glad that you've said that you think they're going to do it, because that means 2 people have now put the mockers on them before I've had the chance to, because I've just had a message from Zoe Burke, not Zoe Wenham, who raced in this championship for a number of years, and she also says that Olympian are going to win. She even said,
we're not going to rip them off. We're not going to say, oh, actually, you need to replace the chassis within 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I really love that about this, and that's why people come back. It's one of the reasons people know that they're coming back into something that, sure, there might be the odd tweak here or there, it might be a slightly different tyre or something like that, but you know, you're changing the tyres every 3 or 4 meetings anyway, so you know, in terms of a new set. So I love that about this. Stability is great. It's not about,
but a possibility that it will go back out again at the next round of pit stops. It's fascinating, this, isn't it?
It is, and then we've got a pass to execute as well.
Oh, yes, that won't be easy. That's but you know, we don't want it to be easy, do we? If it was that easy that
No.
Olympian just sort of rocked up on the back of the Uvio car and got waved through, then that would take all the fun out of it. You could absolutely bet your bottom dollar that Uvio are going to defend this lead, because they haven't won for over a year. They're so hungry, perhaps hungrier than ever, to get a race victory that would also put them really back into championship contention as well. So they are not going to give this away without a fight.
With another win, you've got career stats for wins and things with teams, and who's the most successful teams in terms of race wins over the many seasons that this has been running. And he's scurrying away now into the spreadsheet. Now, not only am I impressed with the amount of data that you have in that, and the fact that you put it all together, because I know how difficult it is, time-consuming it is to do that, but it's how you access the data on race day. I can never look at my data on race day. I have to bring it sort of on a sheet, inquiries and saying, Andy, how many have I done? And,
yes.
and I get that on lap records and things. But yeah, some drivers do, some drivers don't.
Yes, well, I know that Fabulous and Farghini definitely do, because actually it was Fabulous who gave me the idea, and I'm still working on this, to figure out the last to first thing. That was his idea, like how long it takes the car that starts at the back to get to the lead. So that was their idea, and I actually seem to recall when I first put this spreadsheet together, because a few drivers had asked, you know, oh, was that the closest finish we've ever had, or, you know, most lead changes or whatever. So yeah, some of them are more interested in it than others, definitely. But yeah, those two definitely, they do like a stat. What I will say, just as a caveat to that, the Uvio car has won more races than that, but it was a different driver lineup. It was back in the sort of 2014 to 2017 era, when they had a completely different driver lineup in the car. These two together, I reckon it's 14 wins. So it depends which way you want to, you know, they were running under a slightly different team name back there as well, just JPR Uvio.
Is it the same sponsor?
Same sponsor, yes, on the car, but different drivers. Fabulous and Farghini, they'd taken a step away from Front Cup racing and then came back about 8 years ago or so. Jamie is letting us know something about 249, but a track limits penalty. Oh, that's MJ Tech.
That's a shame.
Oh, it's just not been their day, has it, today?
So Bradbury Burrows up into 5th potentially. I'm not quite sure how far they are behind. Every time I look at the timing tower to see whether they're on the
nearly a minute.
Big gap, so they're not going to be able to get that.
Not quite.
Progress. Okay, that's a pity for them.
But that will be now 3 extra visits to the pit lane for MJ Tech over what they should have done.
They're still in 5th place.
Exactly. Jamie also tells me that GCI Racing had a knock on lap 3 that's knocked the tracking out, which perhaps explains why GCI haven't quite had the pace that I maybe expected them to.
1 to 2 gap now, 12.38 seconds. So Simon Rudd still doing the business in second position, and for the second time in the race, I don't know who dicing with, but ahead of Simon Coles. Remember, those two were in close quarters for a fair amount of time during the first part of the race, the first stint. So the way it's fallen, with obviously the 246 Fave Club car has a 2-driver lineup, Simon Coles and Vlad Vasiliev, and the way it's kind of fallen now is that they've gone back to where they were against Simon Rudd, so the two Simons on track, not together, but at the same time anyway. So 12.3 the gap. Here comes the second place car down the Bentley straight into Brundle, and they're also called before, so just the S's.
It was, yeah, complex maybe, yeah. Brundle and Nelson. And Martin Brundle, of course, a bit of a local hero, isn't he? This would have been his local track growing up. Do they still live in the area? Do we know where Martin Brundle's relocated to now?
I don't know.
No, I'm not sure, but it was Norwich way, wasn't it?
Business, that sort of way.
Do they?
Yeah. Started off as grass track racing, car racing.
That's right. Indeed so. And as good a job as Jamie did on the grid walk, I don't think anything's quite like Martin Brundle grid walk, because I'd love to see what he made of the Fun Cup grid walk. You'd probably find a lot more people willing to talk to him, I would imagine, than grid walks he's used to.
I get so frustrated when they moan that a celebrity doesn't want to talk. So what?
Yeah.
They're just enjoying their day. Let them leave it to it.
Good point.
But it does make a talking point, doesn't it?
It does, yes, definitely. So 11.3 seconds the lead. Uvio back to Olympian. Another thing just to point out as far as the podium battle is concerned, it might not affect the leading two. I think realistically this is Uvio versus Olympian GRD now for the race win. Don't forget PLR Racing also double fueled at the last stop, and they're only, well, at last count, about 6 seconds. Let's get the gap now, 8 seconds behind Vape Club, so they could yet be back in contention for a podium finish as well, which would be a great story at the end of the day. Always nice to have PLR Racing up on the podium. About to see them in the background. There they go, just appearing out of Riches as MJ Tech Racing heads the pit lane to serve that penalty.
Do the records go right the way back to the day one, by the way? Have you managed to find everything back to day one, or have you got any bits and bobs missing?
There are a couple of races missing still, so until I've got them all, I haven't put that on a spreadsheet. That's why I started in 2011, but 2011? Yes, 2011, when it became a championship, with interestingly 2 races at Croft. I have a double header to start the championship campaign. But no, once I do need to do a bit more digging and find some of those lost results, because about 2006, 2007, TSL doesn't have all the results. I don't think every race was timed by TSL timing back then as well, so...
They'll let you go and dig them out, because they offered me some stuff a while ago. I never
really?
managed to take them up on it. It really, really helpful to TSL.
I'll come upstairs afterwards and ask the question there.
Yeah. No, really, really helpful. I've got the same thing on it's a job to know where to draw the line on stats, isn't it? Because I know we've started looking at, and this was when I was doing it before you got involved with it as well. How far do you go back? Because it was a non-BRSCC championship before it was a BRSCC one.
Yeah,
do
that's
you take
true.
it from the BRSCC years, and what do we do?
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That? But you can never have too many stats. That's my attitude. So the further back you can go, the better, I think. It's nice to meet someone else who's got an interest for this sort of thing, Richard. I'm often left feeling like I'm a little bit...
I think it's nice to... It respects the guys that, were racing, back in the day. Sort of Mazda Championship, people like Rob Boston that were racing. Paul Sheard, who we interviewed last week, was there back in the day, and he was quite keen to rubbish what he'd done, but he was a good peddler. Paul O'Neill, his name pops up on some of those early races as always winning in fastest lap.
Really? Now, he genuinely doesn't mention that, but I'm gonna pull him up on that next year.
He would probably argue otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of a moment there for the Vape Club car, by the way. Simon Cole's about his first mistake, really, that we've seen from him. Just slipped a bit wide over the curb, exiting Murray's corner. Comes across the line now. Lead gap 10.2 seconds, so we're almost into single figures now. And still, well, actually, the pit window has just opened, but that means we've got the best part of 10 minutes potentially before Simon Coles has to hand over to Riley Phillips. Do you think he'll come in early, though? I suspect that probably is. Yeah. Sorry. Simon Rudd, I beg your pardon. Whether he'll come in early to hand over to Riley Phillips, who I think I called Ricky Phillips earlier on, so I'm not doing well with names in that team. Do you think he'll come in early, though? Because he's on such a run at the moment, in a way, might be better to keep him out there a bit longer.
Might depend.
Is this a puncture or something? That was a change of position. That was third place.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, the EDF car suddenly almost lost control completely and is definitely off the pace.
Not the side. That's not the side where we saw the smoke earlier on, is it?
I've seen anything obviously wrong with it though.
No, I can't either.
Okay. It seems to be picking up the pace now as well. Anyway, Ben Pitch won't mind because he's just been handed third place on a plate. I was speculating they might gain some time. The next round of pit stops, but they might not need to worry about that now. It is, yeah. Neil Plymouth to take it home, presumably, anyway, unless they've gone rogue on their strategy. Yeah, it should be Ben Pitch. So I expect to see EDF in this time, but that's a bit of a drama, isn't it? Because they were the best part of 10 seconds ahead of PLR a lap or two ago.
Down to 9 seconds, so we are into those single figures you mentioned.
Oh yeah, sorry, I posed a question to you then about whether they'd bring Simon Rudd in, as in comes Ben Pitch, interestingly, whether they'll bring Simon Rudd in a bit later than planned. Well, I'd say that's what they're doing, because they've had an opportunity. He's been through once and not come in. I'm going to leave now. It's an interesting EDF, by the looks of it, have gone through... yes, they've gone through and didn't hit, so no major issues for them. No fuel for PLR, so yeah, they were set to gain a bit of time anyway in this pit stop. Then Pitch hands over to Neil Plymouth. Oh, is that door closed?
Oh, I'm not sure it is. The engineer was in the way, wasn't he? As is his right.
Pretty well, yes.
For the shot, but it didn't look. It didn't look like a full shot, did it?
There's a tyre waiting for something there as well.
Director straight on it. Maybe it is.
Maybe he's been able to... no. Oh, well, the other one's open now. That's not even the door that I noticed. The left-hand side door is open. The curbs are locked.
GRD are in, by the way. Sorry to cut across.
What was that, sorry?
Olympian GRD.
Oh, yes, they are. Right. Oh, this is a significant pit stop. Don't see any fuel. Looking out the window here, I don't see any fuel going into that car. There it is, look. So, Chris Davell there to wave them away. Riley Phillips is unleashed, so they came in right in the middle of the pit window, which seemed the fairest way to do it. And out he will go. Into nice clean air as well, Richard. No one else around him. That's good news.
That is very good news for him. Is that part of the strategy as well?
Maybe. With Chris Davell at the helm of the strategy calls, I would not be surprised at all. That's definitely the kind of thing he would look at, I reckon. Look at that, no one else in sight. So that's, well, there you go. There's a car in the background, but that's laps down, the Greenheath car. So this is it now, isn't it? Riley Phillips has to try and get his head down. The question now then is whether or not Uvio need fuel, because I don't think Olympian GRD put any fuel in that time. I didn't see any anyway. Jamie will perhaps correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see any fuel going into the Olympian GRD car. Look at the way that Fabulous is hurling the Uvio car around out onto the Bentley straight, but this is going to be, talk about the money stop, this really is going to be the money stop for Uvio. They need a perfect pit stop here, I think, to have any chance of keeping this car at bay.
Now, should the Olympian GRD car get the win, what's the incidence, sorry to if I make you probably know this anyway, but what's the incidence of 3 long-distance race wins on the bounce?
Well, okay, long-distance race. You asked me this at Anglesey, and I can't remember what my answer was.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Because it didn't, not at Anglesey, at Croft, because we thought MJ Tech were going to do it, and they just didn't quite. There is the EDF car in, by the way. You can see that right rear tyre being taken off. 2 drivers, to my knowledge.
So this is the first time it's been done with the 3-driver outfit?
I think you're probably right.
And that's going to be more difficult, isn't it? Because you've got to have 3...
Oh, that's Bradbury.
That is Bradbury, isn't it? That's why he was dropping back.
Yeah, well, he just had that wayward moment at...
Safety car?
Well, I mean, I doubt it. That's start the race anyway. So they'll lose 2 or 3 laps, won't they, which will knock them down somewhere about 14th, 15th place. And MJ Tech are on. Now this is significant for the championship. MJ Tech at the side of the road, and this is the team who are second in the championship. They were going to drop down to 3rd place, and Scott Jeffs has parked at the side of the road. Now, congratulations to Chris DeVell, to Simon Rudd, and to Riley Phillips, who win here at Snetterton in the 6th round of the Fun Cup Endurance Championship. And in the end, a fairly convincing margin of victory as well, after a perfectly judged race. 2nd place in the end for Uvio Hodman's Motorsport. Fabulous Randaccio felt that they'd been a bit off the pace today, but they still net a 2nd place finish, and will move up into 2nd place in the championship as well. PLR Racing, meanwhile, will have to wait quite a while for this, but they are going to be on the podium, and I think it's been a while since we had them on the podium as well. And appropriately, they're going to cross the line just in front of the GCI racing car. These are probably the 2 oldest teams. I'm not referring to driver age here, but the 2 teams that have been on the Fun Cup grid for the longest. Both of these teams were on the grid for the very first season of racing back in 2002, and they're going to cross the line absolutely together on track again, not fighting for position, but a bit of a photo finish opportunity for those 2. PLR Racing then come home in 3rd place, and one of the best drivers I think we've seen really from Neil Plymouth and Ben Pitch in recent memory. Main Club with EDF will inherit that 4th place after MJ Tech stopped in the closing stages. MJ Tech, by the way, did drop out of the top 10 in the end. They are going to cross the line, if they're still going anyway, in 10th place, although TSL Timing still seems to think that they are stationary. So